Good afternoon, Martin.
Good afternoon. Good to see you.
Good afternoon, Matthias. How are you doing?
Good afternoon, Mr. Shadid.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. How are you keeping? How is your weather?
Yeah, it's getting slowly lighter up here. It's taking some time, but that's how it is.
I believe that Novik is not coming. Vivek is not coming, I believe.
Vivek he's traveled to Egypt,
Okay.
so unfortunately he won't be able to make.
So you will be covering the introduction part after I start the webinar, and why tackle maritime corruption and how MACN collective action will work, and also the challenge from the front line, right?
Yes, I'll take that. And I have prepared a few slides that I will use.
Okay.
And I can show them myself. So, or if you're
Okay.
host.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Great.
I can test now that it's actually working.
Matthias takes up on the Pakistan part, what we want to achieve, like that. Okay.
Exactly.
Good. Assalamu alaikum, Majid bhai. Assalamu alaikum.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Majid Aziz. I think Mr. Najib and Mr. Rajput have joined us. So we are all set. Thank you.
So, good afternoon. Can you hear me? Everybody, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Now, I think this is a very opportune moment in the Global Compact Network Pakistan. Today we are addressing a very important issue in our webinar. As a signatory to the 10 principles of Global Compact, the 8th principle relates to corruption, and business in general is required to ensure that they do not participate in corrupt practices and try to make business free of corruption. We are talking today of the maritime industry of Pakistan. Pakistan's current maritime revenue stands at around $183 million, which is surely less than that of India and Bangladesh, which is in the range of $5.6 to $6 billion. And this maritime economy has a great potential to contribute to the national economy. Pakistan is strategically located in such a situation that it provides a roadway to Central Asia, China, and the significant part of business takes place through the seas. 95% of the business takes place through the seas. We are possibly losing $150 million a year only in corrupt practices, and 10% total revenue is lost in corruption and corrupt practices. We thought it was a very opportune moment to address this issue, and thanks to MACN, the Maritime Anti-corruption Network, which came with the idea of having a joint collective action program in Pakistan Bangladesh and India, so that we can address the issues related to it. So I'd like to welcome our distinguished speakers this afternoon, who would be available to shed their valuable viewpoint on the issues and challenges related to corrupt practices in maritime industry and what should be our way forward. Without any loss of time, I would like to introduce to you, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Martin, who is the Associate Director of Collective Action and Partnership Development in MACN. And I would like to take the lead to introduce himself, MACN, and also to shed some light on why we should tackle maritime corruption and how MACN collective action works. So Martin, off to you.
Thank you very much for that introduction, Mr. Siddiqui. We are very happy to be here today and also very excited about the collaboration we have established with the UN Global Compact in Pakistan and also in the region, including Bangladesh and India. I'm here today to speak a bit about Maritime Anti-corruption Network, who we are, how we work, and why we think it's important to address integrity challenges in the maritime sector and maritime trade, so to speak. I'm also joined here today with my colleague Matthias Back, who will also take over after me and speak about what we intend to or would like to achieve in Pakistan and the collaboration we're seeking with the maritime industry in Pakistan. To guide the presentation, I would like to use a few slides. So if you allow me to just see if I can make this technology work for everyone. Can you see my slides now? Yes, fantastic. Okay, so let me start by saying a few words about the Maritime Anti-corruption Network and why we exist and who we are. MACN, we are a global business network established by the industry about 10 years ago. We are a global non-for-profit with a mission to eliminate corruption in the maritime sector and in trade. Over the years, we have grown quite rapidly, and we currently have 160 members, or actually more than 160 members from across the global maritime sector, but we also have a number of also local and regional SMEs as part of our network. If you look at the tonnage, we represent over 50% of the market. If you look at certain segment, we have the major players in the container segment. So in that segment, we have over 70% coverage, so to speak. We've been established as a reaction to corruption and integrity challenges in the maritime sector. These challenges are usually hard to manage as an individual companies, and therefore 10 years ago, about 10 companies, they sat together in a room and discussed how can we actually address this, because these are challenges that we need a platform to address. We cannot address these or solve this as an individual company. And that's also why we came into being. We work with companies to support them. How can you actually take action against corruption? How can you prepare your frontline staff, your captain, your operations team, and also your senior management to have a responsible approach to these challenges? And we also provide a platform for governments who would like to work with us and look at how can these challenges be resolved in the interest also of facilitating trade and looking at how economies can grow and so forth. I will go back to how we work further down my presentation. I would like to start off by showing you a short video, if this works, I hope, about some of the challenges that we see. We have collected many incidents and challenges from the industry on cases involving vessel inspections. So these are corruption challenges that occur during ship clearance, for example, or during port state control. And this movie I'm about to show give you a kind of a snapshot of what are the challenges that a captain or a company may encounter as they are calling ports across the world. So let's see here if this can actually work. Yes. Yes, so that video is based on real cases where companies have faced challenges during vessel clearance primarily. You could see there were some examples of visas or yellow fever certificates being challenged and requests being made to solve these challenges by essentially paying a cash payment, a corrupt payment. Other examples include custom storage declarations that are a constant headache for many companies as they enter a foreign country, as well as crewing lists and so forth. As you are probably well aware, there are a number of inspections that needs to happen as you call port globally, and they happen for a good reason, of course. This is about, of course, safety of the vessel, safety of the crew, but they also give some room of asking for small gifts or money and so forth during these inspections. So over the years, we've been working with primarily the private sector to see how can we tackle these challenges. And why are we doing this? Well, there are a number of good reasons to address these. Firstly, it's the cost. As you can see in the video here, these demands come with a cost itself. There are some direct costs to meeting these requests for bribes. What we also see in research is that this causes delays, especially if you do not pay. And it also causes congestion at the port, and it raises your operational risks. In the longer term, there are many studies showing that saying no to this is actually leading to a significant savement also in terms of monetary terms. Furthermore, there's a risk of prosecution. Companies and seafarers expose themselves to the risk of criminal prosecution, not always in their home country, but also there are international or other legislations from, let's say, the UK and US, who has international reach and has relevance to any global operating company. And we also see countries like India in the region where you have criminal liability at the management level for these actions, and also for an individual seafarers. There's also something about the well-being of crew here. We see that seafarers and captains that are calling ports where there is corruption or a high level of corruption, they suffer from stress. We see this as a working environment issue. There are studies on, for example, captains calling West Africa that can be quite challenging to call, and also include threats to the physical well-being of the crew. That has a clear negative impact of any crew, and a company that doesn't support their captain will have staff that are suffering from certain level of stress for sure. There's also reputational benefits of investing in integrity and anti-corruption, both about your brand and your company, but also for investors and so forth. There are many international companies that demand that local suppliers also have a certain compliance level. So there's a clear connection also between taking this seriously and also having new business opportunities as you want to connect with global players in the maritime supply chain. Then finally, corruption has an impact on the society, especially at borders like ports. It facilitates a wider range of illicit activities as illicit trade and smuggling and so forth. And it has a negative impact on the economy and the society at large. So what we have done here over the past 10 years is to work with the industry primarily to help them on how they can prepare their staff, prepare their vessels, to actually take this in a more systemic manner, to train their captains on how you can actually reject demands and how you can report this, make sure that they are supported by their operational teams, ensure that the support actually goes all the way up to the boardroom and the senior management in these companies. So the whole engagement with the industry has been extremely important. And as a network, we offer a number of tools and advice for companies that are working with us on how they can actually be more successful on their compliance and integrity journey, so to speak. Also importantly is the work we do in various countries across the world, where we have set up collaboration, not only with the local maritime industry, but also with the government. And with government, I mean primarily the key agencies in the port that are involved in clearance procedures, port state control, and other approvals that has to be sought as you're entering a port. As you can see here on the map, we have highlighted where we are currently operating. And we started 10 years ago in Nigeria, and then we have expanded to Argentina, Egypt, Ukraine, India, Indonesia, and recently we also added Bangladesh and now also Pakistan to the list of countries where we have engagement. What we do in these countries are, I would say, depend on the situation in the country. We kind of tailor-make our efforts depending on the challenges, and we tailor-make them based on the feedback we receive from the industry. We want to address procedures, challenges that are very material and direct to the maritime industry. And we've seen also that in a few years, you can achieve many things also in quite challenging locations. Just to give a few examples, in Argentina, we've been working since 2014. We started there with a dialogue about the holds inspection. So we saw that there were many demands or payments actually being made, up to $10,000 as you sailed out of Argentina and exported grains. So as you may know, there's a large grain exporter, Argentina, and they export soybeans and other grains out of the country. These inspections required many ship owners to pay up to $10,000 or even more sometimes to have a clean hold report. So we went to the parliament in Argentina and we went to the key agencies involved in the inspections. We went to the business associations involved in export of grains. And we also went to the port agent community in Argentina, as well as the international ship owners who were part of this value chain. And we formed a group, an alliance of companies and government who wanted to reform this system. And it took us about 3 years to reform the whole inspection system of how the holds inspections were done in Argentina. And we've been monitoring this since 2017 when the new inspection system came into place. And we've seen a dramatic drop in the kind of corruption incidents and the kind of corrupt demands that we've seen in Argentina. The news article here refers to 90%, and that figure still remains. Another interesting case study is our work in Nigeria, which is our longest project. It's been going on for 10 years. And when we came to Nigeria, we saw many challenges, especially around governance on the port procedures and how do you actually manage a port call, as there were no clear written procedures in country. How do you report challenges to the authorities? There were no channels for doing that. And also many of the agencies didn't have training in these matters. So everything from ethics, integrity, to also the procedures itself. So over the years, we have engaged to kind of rescope or restructure the whole governance of the port sector in Nigeria. And we have had a close also collaboration or endorsement from the vice president in Nigeria, where there is a clear push by the government to look at how do you improve the ease of doing business for any company exporting, importing goods, but also, of course, the maritime industry. And what the Nigerian government has recognized is that the maritime sector is key for that country to prosper, and it's also key for them to improve on how they are actually addressing corruption, as they have a record of actually not scoring very well on international rankings when it comes to corruption. So through this collaboration, we've also been working with agencies like customs, immigration, and so forth, to map out what are the challenges and how can we actually overcome these by not only legal reform, but also training measures, and at the same time looking at what can the private sector do differently to improve challenges on their side. So these are some of the examples of our work. What has guided this in these initiatives is our incident data. We have a global data set of about 5,000 incidents of corrupt demands, you could say. So this is a reporting system that is open via our website. We had it for about 10 years now. And any captain, any company in the industry can file a report saying, I have just called this port, and during that port call, I received demands for cigarettes, I received demands for cash, and I received demands for alcohol by these various stakeholders. It could be customs, it could be your port agent, it could be a range of actors. So it's essentially an open system where you can put in your report. This is anonymous. We don't know who exactly is reporting. It's been used by our members, but it's also being used by other international agencies like International Chamber of Shipping and BIMCO and others, as well as local players. It gives us a really good first snapshot of where we should focus our efforts. And on the world map, you could see the countries that are the most reported countries in our data. You can see that China is on the top of that list, followed by Egypt, and then you have Indonesia. So it's a good starting point for a conversation with the industry, and it's a good starting point also for a conversation with government. And if we take a quick look here at Pakistan, so this is the kind of snapshot view we have from our data of Pakistan. This covers all ports in Pakistan, and it also covers 10 years of data. I would say, in general, we don't have many reports in Pakistan, so we need more reporting to understand what is the challenges on the ground. But what we can see from the data here is that there's primarily container vessels reporting challenges, and they are reporting challenges from actors like customs. They're reporting challenges with immigration authority, also challenges with the port health and the quarantine authority. This is, if you look at the screen here, it's in the bottom right corner where you can see who is actually making these demands for payments. What kind of demands are they asking? Well, it's a mix. We see cigarettes, we see alcohol, we see some gifts in general, small gifts, as well as some elements also of cash payments, even though very low numbers. And also, what are the consequences of this? Well, delay of vessels, that is the key one. And that kind of comes back to my initial presentation here on why we should look at this. We see that these kind of demands, even though they are small scale, package of cigarettes and so on, if you look at the greater picture, it creates a friction and it leads to small delays, and it creates unpredictable working conditions for anyone using the ports. So what we would like to do now is to invite you to work with us in Pakistan. And we, as I said, this is just a snapshot. This is not verified, and this is not the yet one side of things. There are many more data points we need to look at to understand the full picture in Pakistan. But I would now like to turn to my colleague Matthias, who will speak about the initiative we're launching in Pakistan and how you can also collaborate with us. So let me.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending today. I want to tell you a little bit about the project that we are carrying out here and what we want to achieve. So, in essence, what we're trying to achieve is to establish or to work towards more effective ports in Pakistan and in India and Bangladesh by enhancing integrity. So the way we are going to achieve this is by reaching a number of outcomes. First, what we want to do is to build collective action among private sector companies. When one company tries to tackle an integrity challenge or a larger challenge in and out of itself, what we often see is that the effect is quite limited. It may even backlash, we don't know. But when an industry as a collective act, when they enter into an alliance, they can create a huge and more systemic impact. And that is what, as Martin just told, that's what we've seen in other contexts. And that's also what we hope to see in Pakistan. Second, what we want to do here is to build capacity to address these challenges. So the way we can do this is to provide various training modules that can help seafarers in the front line who face these challenges. Responding to an illicit demand doesn't always come naturally. It requires, it's not a thing that's just hardwired into your brain. It requires training. And what we've done is that we've talked to people, member companies, and to the frontline staff they have about the challenges they face and their best practices. And we've connected these into small training modules that we are now sharing for free with anyone who wants to, in Pakistan, who wants to support our project. What we also want to do is introduce a new platform that we can use to do something called due diligence. That is a way we can risk manage some of the risks that are involved in our actions. And for those companies that want to be a part of our alliance, we will also be establishing dialogue sessions where we sit down around a table and share our challenges and, of course, share our best practices. So we will map what issues we have and what challenges we have, and then we will sit down together and find concrete ways to address these. And then we want to involve the government so that as an industry, we can sit down and have a constructive conversation around what reforms and what actions we need to take to address challenges and to create a positive transformation and lasting change in the port sector. So just a little bit more about the training. So this is one of the things that I said we provide in the project. It's e-learning. That means electronic learning. So it's a specialized training that you can provide to your frontline staff, whether you're a port agency, whether you are a ship owner or a port operator. This module will equip your staff with the specialized training that they need and the tools that they will need to safeguard integrity. And as I mentioned, these are based on real-world scenarios and some of the best practices from all over the world. So from Argentina to Nigeria to Ukraine, And I believe this is a valuable tool for everyone to access. So the project, I believe, is so the project will be beneficial to anyone who operates in the port sector in Pakistan. As I mentioned, we will be creating more efficient ports, and that will ultimately make port operations both smoother, it will reduce the number of delays, and might even make it cheaper to operate overall, to the benefit of society and to the benefit of the individual company. In addition to this, of course, we have several good reasons for a company to join. First and foremost, I think we signal that we as an industry can change the status quo and create a more business-friendly climate. We will also help create a more safe environment for our workers. Companies that participate in this project will also get a chance to strengthen their brand, which again might create more new opportunities. And then finally, by participating in this project, you also get access to the tools and the training that I just presented to you. So, how can you get involved? The first way you can get involved is to let us know how we can help you. So let us know that you're interested. Let us know that you want us to get involved. And then let us help us by letting know the situation and that you're in and the challenges that you face. That's a very concrete way you can help us. We also need you to take our risk assessment survey, which we have a link to here, and we will share the link. And in this risk assessment survey, you can share your general perspectives with us, which will help us also direct us in setting up dialogue sessions with government. You can also support us by taking our training and to reach out to us and ask what's the value of this for us. And if you're still skeptic about this, let us know, because we would love to get involved in a dialogue as well with you. And then, of course, if you want to get involved, join the initiative. We have a steering committee we're about to set up, so you're welcome to join the steering committee and join the alliance in general. We are open to any company who wants to make a positive transformation and help address integrity challenges. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yes.
Thank you very much, Martin Matthias, for a very comprehensive presentation on the need for tackling maritime corruption, the examples given of combating corruption in Argentina, Nigeria, and other countries. And Matthias very aptly presented the Pakistani scenario. And I think it is time for us to now turn to the boiling water of corruption in Pakistan. And I take this opportunity now to invite Mr. Mohammad Najib Balangawala, who is the chairman of Sea Trade Group of Companies, a very senior industrialist engaged in the import and export of so many items, and is so very conversant with what is happening at the port and the customs and various areas. So I especially would like to thank him for accepting our invitation to be able to share his views on the issues and challenges of corruption in maritime industry in Pakistan. So I would like to invite Balangawala Sahab, Najib Balangawala Sahab, to please give his views. Najib bhai.
Assalamu alaikum, Siddiqui Sahab. Can you hear me?
Yeah, please.
Can you?
We can hear you.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Mr. Benderson, Mr. Back, and whatever background Mr. Majid Aziz, my elder brother, and Mr. Siddiqui had given, his team has given to us. See, basically, corruption, we do international trade with multinational. The list you provided, about 15 people I could identify where we are doing business, containers, Musk, MSL line, Stena Bulk. We are doing a lot of lines. Now, there are two sides of the story. One, in the 80s, Port Qasim, when it started, the draft available was up to 13 meters. And I started the port and I had a monopoly for nearly 25 years on the 7 berths. So with the marine guys, they were very expert. They had worked in third world countries. They declared 10.5 meters. And then they would take some money to even berth up to 12.8 ships. Since I was also discharging the vessels, it was very awkward. But at that time, there were no general compliance clauses, which over the period in FOSPA and all that, general compliance clauses prohibits corruption, anti-money laundering, which was all there. Over the years, we fought 3 or 4 of us, and we had all the berths declared. 13 meters were available, 12 meters were available, and by the grace of God, no money is paid now for overdraft or over length or over beam, no money is paid. If there is we have got, fortunately, with 1 or 2 honest people who came in, Admiral Waliullah, that port charges a penalty which is known and it's transparent. So that was a major, major corruption. Of course, with every chairman who comes in to Port Qasim or Karachi port, I send them an email, which I have got no response, no reply from any chairman, that why in this Muslim country, beer, immigration, customs, port people, port health, port dog safety come in and ask for beer, cigarettes, etc. None of the chairmen have not even given me a reply. And I think I've sent about 30 emails, and at that time faxes, before we didn't have emails. So this is a normal thing. Some immigration people, by advising them when they talk, normally my staff goes there. I put them that where, this is illegal for Pakistan law, but it is also in religion not allowed in Islam, And they are people, they are having beards, long beards, praying, and still they are taking beer from the thing. So these items are there, already covered. This, unfortunately, despite even taking physical action, our staff and our labor leaders, etc., still this practice is prevailing in Pakistan. And it is passing through every day, because we have a lot of ship vessels coming in. It is in container ship, it is more, but in bulkers and our short stay, we bring in coal, we bring in canola, oilseed, which we also sell. So we are working with good companies like Viterra and ADM and Columbia Grains and Lafarge, Holcim, where we are made to sign. So we avoid paying anything, but we suffer sometimes, we suffer because, the government brought in wheat import. They put priority. We had to go to the court, spend 4 million rupees to put back the first come, first serve, which is, and since I am a very vocal critic, I'll put in an email immediately to all, including ministers, including Prime Minister, PS to Prime Minister. So they are very, accommodating to me. I don't pay any pilot bonus, which many agents pay. There are some agents which are at fault, you know. For example, recently in COVID, the sign-on, sign-off had a rule which we went and talked to the health that 14 days or earlier if he signed off on the vessel, he needs a valid PCR. The sign-off costs are about $80 to $90 in Pakistan, depending on the exchange rate. Agents are charging up to $300, and in COVID, they started charging $400, $350 for sign-on, sign-off. We maintained a rate. We didn't pay anybody anything or the port health. And they came to my people and said, no, we'll charge $100 extra. We said no. And a lot, you know, the good thing is I got a lot of work from owners for sign-on, sign-off, because we were charging $82 normally. And we kept that. In fact, it's reduced because the Pakistan rupee devalued. We don't need it in dollars, we need it in rupees. We don't pay any immigration at airport, etc. So things there are better. The corruption is now in the plant protection department, which is forcing all oilseed import to pay $2 a ton fumigation charges, which is going in the pockets of seniors of plant protection department. My son raised issue, sent a full report to the American embassy. Majid Bhai can send you the copy. And these people were so strong that they filed cases of terrorism and things in Islamabad, which my son had to go under bail and fight it out, and cost us 50 lakh rupees in legal fees. Of course, he was acquitted. But these are the top level, which happens, which is fumigation company is the only one who can import methyl bromide. Methyl bromide is not required. The major thing is these small things end up costing a lot. Now, one issue which I think is very, very material, because Siddiqui Saab forwarded from Denmark, edible oil is coming to Pakistan, 3 million tons or more, palm oil, soybean oil. And for the first time, sunflower oil, a ship coming early March. The thing is, if Mr. Siddiqui has some annexures, when the draft survey is done, joint draft survey, parties, insurance company, etc., from the manifest, we have a contract which says 0.25 shortage is allowed, We have a contract, in the contract it says, White Arrow or Columbia or anybody, ADM, that they will not arrest the vessel if there is a shortage, 0.25%. They will not arrest a vessel, or they will claim against the agent. And this is the normal thing. In the manifest, there is 10-ton excess from ullages, 10-ton excess in the manifold discharge, but the terminal always puts in 0.44, 0.48 shortage. The terminal gives no reason. And then there is one lawyer mixed with one judge who, he finds out data. Past owners, 15 years ago, the ship, a tanker owned by somebody, he files a case, and there is an annexure. I don't know whether she can put it on the screen. Files cases. He has 10,000 cases pending in court. Then they blackmail the agent and the PNI club. Some owners become bankrupt, and we end up, although our fees for tanker is $1,600 only to $2,000. But one agent, one lawyer, one judge, and one terminal are in league. And the terminal also owns they are partners with Felder, so they own Marpac terminal at Port Qasim, where they are charging $2 extra. This alone is the major corruption, because Eventually, the cargo which gets discharged in the terminal dispatches from the port. And it goes out as such, the value is huge. The value is millions of dollars. Sometimes 10 million rupees worth of cargo as 4.44. And this then lawyer sues the agent, 7 owners, disponent owners, etc. All the figures for 1 or 2 vessels I've given. I think we have 40 cases we had pending. The insurance company comes in. I blacklisted the insurance company, then they solved it. We are slowly and slowly, the receivers are telling the lawyer we will not file the case, because the lawyer files it on his own, taking report from the terminal, and then he puts in figures of $900, $1,800, comes to settle it. Now, otherwise he puts a long case, and this judge gives him, in 10 minutes, he gives him the claim, legal case, which documents are with Mr. Siddiqui for 1 or 2 vessels. This is one of the, now this side is the port side. We are, some agents with us filing cases. We have stopped a lot of corruption because we are under obligation with the general compliance clause. The other thing is the other side. Masters and owners don't have proper documentation of crew. For example, 2 of our recent cattle ships, they brought in vets and stockmen without visa or without seaman book. This is not allowed. And I faced a penalty of 500,000 from the immigration, because you can't bring in a person, particularly in this security circumstances. Owners come in with holds not cleaned, try to bribe SGS or staff, and there is pet coke or cold stains. And then if the stevedore raises a claim of detention to his gangs, then they create problems. So owners and masters are at fault. The other thing is owners and masters, some of them, they tell our staff to sign $300 paid to immigration or something, and they give him $50. They want him to sign, you know. And I have told the, my staff is very honest. They came to me and told me 2 or 3 cases like that. And I called the master myself. I said, Captain, I know your nationality. I know what you want. You can steal with the owners, but not in our country. And do you think we are just mom and pop ship agency? We have some obligations to our charterers, to our owners. So these masters create a situation with their owners, and then they say, oh, FIA is doing this and immigration is doing this and custom. And then they pay the boarding clerk $50, $30, get a voucher signed for 300, which the agent head office is not aware of. And these masters, once I called the master and said, Master, what thing you asked my staff, I'll make sure you don't go out of Pakistan. The ship will go, but you will not go. Then he withdrew. This has happened in 4 cases in the last 2 years. So corruption is on the owners and ship side also. Corruption is at the terminal side. But generally, Pakistan is losing about $150 million in such corruption. And we fight it. Fighting is very hard. It is very hard. It is very hard to fight in Pakistan against corruption, whiskeys, cigarettes, LOAs, this and that, port people, the bureaucracy is there. But fortunately, once in a while, an honest person comes as chairman of PQA Karachi, and we get one success after another. The other thing is my brother Majid, being president of Chamber, Commerce, SITE, also his Employees Federation. He is a very good asset to stop corruption for us, because if we find some commissioner or some income tax or some custom, then he has friends in the high and he calls them. So that stops for a temporary. But we need to change the it is against the religion. It is against our way of working in Pakistan. Pakistan is still, I've been to many, many ports. I've been to Argentina. I took 32 people to Viterra's soybean, etc. We do about 2 million tons of soybean also, and about 800,000 canola. So I've taken delegations to Australia, Romania, Ukraine, everywhere. And with ADM or TOFR or Viterra, Glencore, ex-Glencore, we have advised these people, and we took also some people from the port once in a while, and we hold seminars. Fortunately, Sea Trade is one agent who's, I used to call it expense for income tax in the 80s and 90s, PPTD. PPTD, I think Mr. Siddiqui will explain, because this bribe or expense you give has to be in the bank account, it has to be withdrawn. So PPTD was paisa peng tamasha de. Give the money and get the result. You know, it was an account in my, which I put on my balance sheet, and I used to tell to the income tax guys, you will take bribes, your amount will also be in that account. So accept it as an expense. But now, due to my background, family background, and religious, I refuse to give. It is hard, but at least for the draft, we are not giving. So once in a while. So now everything is better, but whatever you do, we will help you because we are already doing this.
Thank you, Najib Bhai. I think it was a very comprehensive picture of the scenario that prevails at the port, at the customs, and as long as we have people like you to fight against corruption, I think our collective action is going to meet with success. And we look forward to getting your continued support to this great initiative which we have started in Pakistan in collaboration with MACN. I would now like to turn to Mr. Tahir Hussain, who is the Secretary General of Pakistan Shipping Agents Association and is representing Mr. Muhammad Rajpar, who was supposed to be here, but unfortunately because of a funeral in the family, he could not be here. He is the Managing Director of General Shipping Agencies, but he will be represented by Mr. Tahir. And I think there are some very good examples of best practices also in Pakistan of living without corruption. So may I give the floor to you, Tahir Saab, to shed your views on how deep is the corrupt practice, how can companies survive without indulging into corruption, and how it can contribute to sustainable development and sustainability of enterprises. Tahir Hussain, I have floor to you.
Thank you, Fazil Saab. Well, I would share some points which I think will discourage corruption, like selection and building a bona fide board of directors having good reputation, and which is an important aspect which one cannot overlook. So as they say, your reputation precedes. So it is an important aspect. Then ability to deal with government officials in a tactful manner so as to avoid corruption and corrupt practices is also an important aspect. Portrayal of ethical ethos, which is a very scarce commodity, one needs to highlight and market this aspect as well. So people know you will not succumb to corrupt practices. Then transparency in your transactions, business transactions, which will definitely discourage corrupt officials if you are transparent enough. Engaging in ethical corporate social responsibility projects and activities. Ethical and creative when dealing with custom officials. I mean, one needs to be very creative and ethical here in Pakistan if you are dealing with custom officials, which by which you can avoid corruption. Then searching and selecting partners, suppliers, contractors, and various other associates who are ethical And by the way, which is not a very easy task to do and takes considerable time and due diligence. Then using today's technological advancements in order to promote your ethical values, so people know your integrity, penalizing corrupt individuals so as to ensure anti-corruption, finding support for ethical values in a corrupt environment is also one of the aspects to look for. Then devising and employing best procedures for resisting corruption. This is also very important. And then strategies and mechanisms should be in place so you can promptly identify corrupt practices and individuals. So I guess these are a few of the points which I have in my mind, which I think will discourage corruption and will promote anti-corruption.
Very short but crisp understanding of the issues and the solutions you have been offering. Now, I think it is my privilege to introduce Mr. Majid Aziz, who is the president of Global Compact Network Pakistan and is a born fighter against corruption in Pakistan in all the capacities that he has been having as an industrialist in Pakistan. He had been the chairman, president of Karachi Chamber of Commerce Industry, the largest chamber of Asia. He had been the president of Site Association of Trade and Industry. And lastly, he had been the president of Employers Federation of Pakistan, the host organization hosting the Global Compact Network in Pakistan. So we are very privileged to have Majid Aziz as heading the Global Compact Network Pakistan. And I think he is the very right person to be the frontline fighter against corruption in the maritime industry. He was one who immediately succumbed to the idea that the Global Compact Network Pakistan must get and engage into such an offer from MACN, and we need to fight about it. So I think I would like to give the floor to Majid Bhai, not only to reflect on the issues and challenges, but also the way forward. How do we look going ahead in our mission, which is very difficult, of course, but it is not insurmountable. So Majid Bhai, floor to you.
Thank you, Fasi. Welcome all our participants, especially Martin and Matthias, Taisab, Najib and others. I think this webinar, through this webinar, we are going to learn a lot. And I think it is an opportune time. And I'll give you the reasons why it is an opportune time. But before I go into that, we have to understand that right now, the buzzword, Martin, is the blue economy, is the buzzword. And Pakistan is now, has taken cognizant of this, the policymakers. And you heard of CPEC, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. Now we are talking about the Maritime Corridor. And as you know, we have 3 major ports in Pakistan, and there are at least a couple more that are in the feasibility stages or on the drawing boards. I believe that while we all concentrated from the shipping point of view, we should also understand that there are also other sectors like fisheries, etc., of the whole marine and coastal ecosystems with an annual global turnover of about $6 trillion. It's not a small amount. Ship and boat building, you can take aqua sport, tourist resorts, energy, blue carbon, etc. And they all come to what is our focus, is also the employment opportunities, especially for countries like ours. We believe that the sea resources overall play a very major role, very prominent role in the economic progress and growth of any nation. And we are fortunate, and states like us holding seashores, we have the ultimate edge over states we do not possess sea or any coastal lines. I'll give an example of Afghanistan. They're dependent on us, there are estimates, various estimates. They said the total world blue economy is $24 trillion. So we can see the need and the immediate imperatives of why we are addressing, among other issues, the factor which is always disturbing, and that is corruption. Pakistan, for us, the maritime sector is our jugular vein of our economy, because 95% of our trade and even 100% of our minerals and other resources are being imported through or exported through the sea route. As Najib also said that, we are fully occupied. Our ports are chock-full of ships coming into Karachi. And although Gwadar still has some ways to go, but we know that things will take on speed very soon over there. Now, corruption is endemic at many a port in the world. It is not to the countries that you mentioned. It is everywhere, Now, we have to understand. Now, let me tell you from the economic point of view. Since Pakistan has been granted the European Union GSP plus status, and we have to comply with the 27 conditionalities, and number 27 is good governance, which is a euphemism for corruption. And since we are also on the grey list of the Financial Action Task Force known as FATF, and also, whether we like it or not, in many global indexes, Pakistan is in the higher ranks of the corruption factor. So it is imperative that all concerned stakeholders must strongly create a formidable environment to document corruption then create awareness and ensure elimination or at least minimization of corrupt activities. Now, where does the problem lie? Problem lies at every stage. Everybody on the other is involved in the corruption, directly or indirectly. We at Employees Federation of Pakistan, very, very strongly we maintain zero tolerance. And Fasiul Karim Siddiqui, I was fortunate to have him as my Secretary General. He is an encyclopedia in himself. And both of us, along with our Vice President, and we were very, very strongly promoting zero tolerance among all our members. And we have about 1,000, including all the chambers and the associations. So when the question is, when you hear what is it in for me, then when the circumstances around you, surrounding you, force you to submit, then you have to address that question, what is in it for me? So what has happened is, I think it has not been brought up here so far. One thing is, when this kind of corruption continues, that develops a sense of complacency. Okay, it's happening, take it as a cost, pass it on, and don't waste time, because time is of the essence. Then, along with it, we resign to the circumstances that force us or coerce us into being part of the corruption syndrome. Unfortunately, Martin, in our environment, the political influence plays a major role. Even on the board of trustees, even in massive overemployment, and not only on the lower tier, but in the officer level, others. And when a political appointee takes charge, he is there to make money. And because of his political influence and other factors, and again, I would reiterate, you resign to the fact and you go along with it. Najib mentioned something about the fumigation and methyl bromide, and we know what we went through it. Although nothing to do, we are agents only. But the underlining sentence is all this was in one way corruption. Therefore, from the, I headed the Karachi Chamber, I headed the Employees Federation, and I was the head of the South Asian Forum of Employees also. We have been talking about it. We in the Karachi Chamber and in the Federation of Chambers, we have port and shipping subcommittees, which are very, very well attended. People come with their problems, and invariably they talk about the corruption. Invariably they talk about corruption, that we have to go through it. Yes, there are some, strong-headed people like Najib, to some extent me, that we try to fight. But then work will be done. But something that has to be done in 2 days will take 20 days. Unless and until you give them their whatever they require. Why should the consumer suffer? That is the main question. Because anything that we give in corruption, we have to pass it on. We are here also to make money, not to just do good deeds. We are there to make money. And if honestly we don't make money because we have to do it, or we suffer on the personal or on our company, so then what should we do? Therefore, now it is very important that what you have said, you have given the links, you have given the tools. It is our now obligation, not only in the GCNP, but also since I'm involved in the Karachi Chamber and Employees Federation and others, we will disseminate each and every information that you present. I will sit down with Fasi, and in the next port and shipping meeting of the Karachi Chamber, I will, on behalf of GCNP, and more importantly, with your advice, guidance, and with your support, I will try to sensitize my colleagues, my fellow businessmen in the Karachi Chamber and through GCNP, also in the Employees Federation and our trade associations, that a time has to come, because in end of 2023, we have to also work hard to get the next 10 years European Union GSP plus status. And if we ignore, or we are not able to address the good governance, we are going to face a lot of difficulties, because more and more conditionalities are imposed on us. We have to make sure that our policymakers are answerable to the United Nations, to IMF, to World Bank, to Asian Development Bank, because everywhere that they go, the corruption situation is highlighted and is a black mark on our country's image and our country's reputation. So I can speak on behalf of GCNP that we will fully support all initiatives that you are undertaking. We are ready to support, and we need a continuous guidance, advice, and assistance and cooperation to achieve our common goals. Mr. Siddiqui, for the last, I think, 1 month has been, he is only talking about this MANC and this webinar and what should we do, is talking to everyone. We, since we are also in the business, and we'll use our also whatever critical mass we have to disseminate, to make people take the survey, to get the studies done. Because if we don't, and I don't call it, Martin, I don't call it baby steps, I call it a big jump. The baby step days are gone. If we don't do it now, it will not be done. The momentum is there. I am very much confident, and I very well fully support my team in GCNP. And inshallah, God willing, we will try our level best to at least go more than 3-4 steps up the ladder. So on behalf of GCNP, I thank MNC, you and Matthias for your support, and we are available anytime, anywhere you want. Thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you, Majid Bhai, for a very illuminating picture and very encouraging picture of what can be done in Pakistan. But before I come to a way forward, I have a few questions in the chat box for Najib Bhai. One of the questions that I've received is to you, addressed to you. Which sector of the maritime industry is more corrupted? Is it port operations, customs, shipping agents, or any other?
Customs, number one.
Najib Bhai?
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Customs one, and number two is port operations.
Okay. There is another question on the chat box which relates to you, which says that as per MLC, manning agents are not supposed to take any charges. The points that you mentioned about $300 to $400 charged by the agents, is it known to the government, or the agent illegally charges amount?
See, agency fees, etc. There are now DA desk, etc. all over Dubai and India. They are now doing everything on the port DA. So they have tariffs. We also provide them standard tariff for them to check. So whatever beyond this tariff is totally an illegal money. It is not within that, but they get the dollars added. They even take masters carry dollars, so they even get the dollars from the master. This is unethical. This cannot be done because port security should check them when masters also take vouchers, receipts, by not paying, just paying $20 to $50 and taking a $300 voucher. So that they get from the owners, because they carry $10,000 or $15,000 from owners, head owners, right? Also, they get some from disponent owners or charterers for victualling and all expenses. And such payments, they show that, oh, this is on charterer's account. It's not on owner's account. Customs or immigration, they pay. They say these are normal expenses. A master and probably the chief and the three people, chief engineer, share it,
Fasi, with your permission, I just want to add. Okay.
Majid,
go ahead, Najib.
Basically, what I think the best way, there were certain problems which there is a big seminar held in Karachi. We invite everybody, the chairman, the director of port and shipping, even ministers of port and shipping, immigration senior people, customs senior people, and we identify them. And we, it would be a blend of also the religion, and, in fact, the non-Muslims like Parsis, who have been running ship agencies, unfortunately not much now, because many moved to Canada, many left this business. The young generation is interested in something more than ship agency or stevedoring. We should call everybody who matters. And Seatrade and Majid, Aziz, we are willing to pay this. Some speakers come from outside. We'll take the help of Mr. Siddiqui, and we put a presentation. I think once you make a seminar and you show them their face, what they are doing, I think things will change. Even if we can get a 10% improvement, that's $15 million worth of corruption, which is less. And eventually it costs the nation because, owners quote freight, they put all the expenses in the freight. Let's say the ship of coal could be
Najib bhai, we are already planning a face-to-face launching of collective action program sometimes in toward the end of May in Pakistan, and that will be a good opportunity to invite the stakeholders and have a very frank discussion on this subject. But before that, Majid bhai wanted to say something.
I just forgot one thing. In 1989, when I was the chairman of Site Association Industry, we did an informal survey of what is called speed money, or in our language, bakshish. You had also given some words that other countries use. In those days, we took the number of ships being berthed and how much speed money was paid. For example, de-stuffing, for example, truck going out of the gate, and many other factors. And that came to, in those days, to 1.75 billion rupees, which at today's value, if I take 175 as the dollar value, was about 10 million. Now, gentlemen, that was 34 years ago. Today, as I said, all our ports are chock-full. We, in my opinion, at least 10 times, if not more, at least 10 times more is speed money, which is unaccounted, undocumented, is not what the masters get or what you pay to the customs. It's just the inside people. So that would be about $100 million a year. Now, what happens? How is it documented? The clearing agent, when it gives the invoice and has different for this money, for that activity, there is one entry called miscellaneous expenses. And the miscellaneous expenses is the overall speed money or bakshish or whatever you want to call it. It is corruption, is added into that. So in effect, any multinational, any local, any domestic, if they are importing, though they may be talking about that we don't give corruption, that miscellaneous expense is corruption and is documented, but not in exact definition, but it encompasses all such money. Thank you.
I would like to give the floor to Martin for any comments that you would like to share on the observations made by our presenters. Martin?
Yes, thank you so much. And thanks so much for the very interesting presentations we just heard here. I think many of the challenges that was mentioned are challenges that are not new to anyone in the business. These are challenges that anyone operating in the maritime industry would encounter also outside Pakistan. I think that is encouraging because there are other countries who have been successful in addressing this. There are other governments who are taking steps where also Pakistan can learn from, and also where the industry can learn from other peers. So to take this forward from our side, it will be important to understand where we should focus. It will be important to understand what are the most important risks and challenges that you as a ship owner, as a port agent are dealing with in your daily operations, and to get a consensus or an agreement on where that focus should be. Secondly, we're also keen to understand how we can support you in your internal operations, how we can support your ops teams, how we can support your captains, and also senior management. What we've been doing quite successfully with other companies is to run crew seminars to discuss these challenges. It's usually quite a lively debate on what and why should you do this. But it's a good starting point because this is about changing mindset to some extent and just showing that it's possible to challenge the usual practices or the business as usual scenario and so forth. So we're very, very encouraged by this initiative, very encouraged by the leadership of also Mr. Siddiqui and Mr. Aziz here. And we're looking forward to working with you on these initiatives in the coming years, because this will not be solved tomorrow. This is a long-term game, and we're very much ready to support you and be part of that game going forward. But thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Martin. Matthias, would you like to make any comment?
You're on mute.
No? Hello, Matthias, are you willing to make any comment at this point? If not, then may I conclude to say that today's webinar is in fact the beginning of a crusade against corruption in maritime industry in Pakistan. Today's webinar is giving us a very important wake-up call to be able to mobilize the private sector and the partners in trying to join the collective action which we propose. This collective action is not based on violence, is not based on compulsion, is not based, but it is purely voluntary. And the idea is to help the maritime industry be more contributive to the national economy and to the GDP. And if we succeed in doing that, surely we are going to assist our development process in a big way. As we propose to move forward, we are going to have two very important gap assessment. One is going to be a risk assessment that we are trying to do, a risk mapping of what is happening in customs and ports and other areas, so that we can identify which are the incidences where we need to address to be able to address the issue of corruption. And secondly, we are trying to have a legal gap assessment of what needs to be done to improve our legal framework wherever they are lacking, in order to be able to sort of fill in the vacuum and try to erase the possibilities of corrupt practices. Then as we come to discuss issues, I think there are two major things that we can do to address corruption. One is, of course, at the port level, port governance, improving the port governance, and the second, the custom inspection procedure. I think we have already seen it being tackled in Nigeria and Argentina, so we may not have to reinvent the wheel, and we should be able to get the support from the case studies we are able to implement with the help of MACN in Argentina and Nigeria, and we can see how we can take steps to improve our inspection system and the port governance system, because that in itself is vital in addressing issues of corrupt practices in Pakistan. The third important thing is mobilization of the private sector. I think the private sector has immense potential to bring into limelight issues which possibly cannot be identified by even the public sector, because sometimes they are themselves part of it. I very interestingly recall a verse which Najib bhai, you said, would you like to repeat that verse? That was a very interesting verse. Najib bhai, can you hear me? The interesting शेर जो आपने पढ़ा था जरा उसको दोहरा दें.
Najib, you are mute. You are mute. You are mute.
आपने एक शेर पढ़ा था बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग.
मुझे खबर है लुटेरों के सब ठिकानों की, शरीक जुर्म ना होता तो मुखबरी करता.
So it means that I am fully aware of the whereabouts of the looters. Had I not been an accomplice, I could have been a good spy. So I think we need to really identify these hideouts of looters in the maritime industry, and the private sector is the most important agent of change which can make it happen much more curiously and more for the interest of the general economy. And the last thing that we need to do is, very importantly, the public-private dialogue, which needs to be immediately started for mapping out the process of improvement. I am very happy to inform that hopefully next week or within the next 10 days, we are going to have a meeting with the Minister of Maritime Affairs, with the courtesy of Mr. Majid Aziz and a few of our friends, and we would like to discuss threadbare what are the possibilities of addressing the corruption issue. The present government is committed very strongly to fight against corruption, and I have every reason to believe that the minister will be equally interested and keen to find out ways and means to have a joint collaborative public-private approach to addressing the issue of corruption. So with people like Najib and Majid Bhai and Rajpal, I think we have started the journey today, and we look forward that Martin and Matthias, as our great supporters, would be able to steer the way through. And it's a very hard journey. It's a very difficult terrain. It's a road never traveled, but I'm sure we are able to make it a successful ride. And at the end of the day, in a year or so, we should be able to identify some very clear improvements which this particular initiative of collective action could be able to make, with a difference in how things are today. And Najib bhai, I can also assure you that $150 million of waste in corruption is not a small amount. It's a great amount. And I look forward that with soldiers like you, we should be able to fight it at all levels and see to it that this is not only diminished, but is erased away. And we are able to say with pride that we joined our hands together in a collective action, and we were able to do that. So with these few words, this is the beginning of an activity. This is the first seminar that we are having, first webinar that we are having. Mr. Martin calls it recruitment webinar, because we want to recruit companies to collective action. And I'm sure a number of participants, including our friends from India and Bangladesh, who are witnessing this webinar, would be able to also assist us in giving their ideas as to how we can collectively do it on a regional basis at a national level. So with these few words, once again, I would like to thank each one of you for your very candid ventilation of thought, and for your very candid expression of a very sound determination to fight against the crusade, to fight in the crusade against corruption, which we have resolved today. And we will be proud to be called the pioneering champions of anti-corruption in maritime industry in Pakistan. So thank you very much once again. All those who have joined us on the webinar are our soldiers, and I'm sure they would be able to join us more vociferously to see to it that our objectives are achieved. So thank you very much. And did you have a photograph? Yes. We had a photograph. Great, great. So thank you, Martin and Matthias, and thank you, Majid Bhai, and thank you, Najib Bhai and Tahir Saab for your very useful contribution to this webinar. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.